What's up, guys? Welcome to Blue Presents podcast where I discuss all things music. And today on my show, we are diving into the second installment of my series, Why We Like 'Em, Why We Don't, featuring my buddy Brandon Cooper. And today we're talking about Ghost Man. And, this was cool to kind of break down what's really awesome about this band and what are some things that, you may not be a fan of. And this series isn't meant to, trash bands. It's more to analyze why they have so many fans divided and kind of understanding both sides of that. But once again, man, thank you guys for joining me this week, man. If you'd like to be a guest on this show, or you have a show idea, or you'd like to have a band be on the Why We Like 'Em, Why We Don't series, hit me up on the social medias, man. We've got Facebook, Instagram, Blue Presents Podcast. We also have Podcast of Blue on Twitter, man. Like I said, man, hit me up. Even after this show, man, tell me what your thoughts and opinions are on Ghost, why you like them, what are some things you don't like, or why you may understand both sides of the argument. But before we get started with today's show, man, listen to my boy AJ Pelletier tell you why you should listen to the Roads We Travel podcast. And by the way, man, pick up some merch, man. He's got some merch. Head over to the Roads We Travel Facebook, man. He's got some merch up. Hit him up. Thank you, guys.
Hey, everyone. AJ Pelletier here, and I'm here to talk to you about my podcast, The Roads We've Traveled. It's a podcast where every week I talk to guests and friends from music, art, comedy, and more about their journeys through life, their struggles, their joys, and everything in between. You also get to know a little bit more about me and my journey as well. So if you like podcasts about good conversations about life, or maybe you're just looking to relate to somebody about some things you may be going through as well, then The Roads We've Traveled is the podcast for you. Subscribe to us today on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you guys get your podcasts from. Check us out and subscribe to us on YouTube. And check us out at facebook.com/Roads We've Traveled Podcast. All right, everyone. Thanks.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Blue Presents a podcast where I discuss all things music and how it affects my life. And today, we're diving into my series, Why We Like 'Em, Why We Don't. And I am joined, once again, by my Howard Jones to my Jamie Josta, Brandon Cooper. What's going on, Brandon?
What's going on?
For people who don't get that reference, Howard Jones appears a lot on Jamie Josta's podcast. And Brandon is probably been on the show within the last year, 4 or 5 times now?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that, man. You know I appreciate you. So, you're on the show this week. How are you?
I'm great. Living life every day, working like crazy, and trying to find time to just do what I want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Time to find time for you to do you and your 24/7,000 projects that you have lined up.
Yes.
For most people who don't know, Brandon invented a new core. Can you expound upon this new core you have discovered and created?
Yeah. So this is all thanks to Rich. You know Rich.
Rich has been a guest on the show. Yes.
Yeah. So he knows that I have a passion for cows, and they're like one of my favorite animals. And he said I should create farmcore. So it's basically like down-tempo or deathcore, and it's going to have like some old school nursery rhyme, farm stuff, and animal noises. It's just going to be weird.
Yeah. Oh, man. Coming to a crib near you, I guess. So your, infant to toddler range can just mosh the house.
Trying to start the kids young, man.
Hey, man. Yeah, man.
When they look up Old MacDonald Had a Farm, they stumble upon my stuff, and then they're like, oh, shit.
It just got real. Yeah.
Yeah. Mommy, what's this?
Awesome. So today, Brandon's on my show to, join in on my series, Why We Like 'Em, Why We Don't. And that's where we basically analyze a band from multiple perspectives and just kind of talk about why we like them, why we don't like them, and why we can understand why people are into them, and why we can understand why people are not into them. And this week is probably one of the more complex artists, I think, that I've kind of discovered, and there's kind of a love-hate relationship. There's people who absolutely love this band, and then there's people who absolutely despise this band because they feel that their imagery projects something else that they are not. And so I'm going to start off with asking Brandon, what was your first thoughts when you actually sat down and listened to Ghost?
My first thoughts were that they were like almost like a Steel Panther, but a little more darker, like a 80s knockoff kind of vibe. Mm-hmm. But I listened to the most recent record from 2018. I don't know the name of it.
Yes, it's called Prequel.
Okay. I gave it a fair shot. Mm-hmm. I actually thought it was pretty good. Mm-hmm. A lot of different elements to their songs.
Yes.
It's not like just one genre. It's like, he pulls from like a whole bunch of different genres and stuff. Yes. I think that's really cool. It's really, I wouldn't just when I get in my car, I'm not going to put on Ghost. You know what I mean? But if I throw Shuffle on and it comes on, I might not.
Yeah. I was kind of introduced to this by guys I worked with in Florida who were so high on these guys, but also at the same time, and not to knock them in any sense, but just to kind of give you an idea of what type of person these people were that listened to Ghost. They were a little bit more closer to that millennial, I drink craft beer type deals. And that's not knocking anybody. If you're into that stuff, you're into that stuff. It's whatever. But for whatever reason, it seems to be that fan base that kind of enjoys this band Ghost. Upon my first thoughts of listening to them, I thought old school, like very old school, very old school. I feel like this is a band that probably, if they were out in the 70s and 80s, they probably would be the band we talk about. We talk about Led Zeppelin, The Doors, and Ghost. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Personally, it's definitely not in my wheelhouse. For Tasha, she was disturbed by the fact that I was listening to this band while I was doing research for this show. She asked me, "Why are you listening to this?" It is what it is. Her response to this music was, "What is this? And can you stop listening to it?" Yeah, she never. And here's the thing: I listen to a lot of different music, and Tasha's usually in the area and she vibes with it. This was the only time she really just asked me, "Can't you just use your headphones?" So if that kind of gives you kind of an idea of what kind of, what we got here. But it's not to knock this band. Like I said, I think this band is very old school. And I do feel like you said, especially this new album, Prequel, I'm going to say it like that because I was trying to figure out how to say it. And someone was like, "Yes, this is how you say it. You say prequel." And I was just like, "Is it not just prequel?" And it's like, "No, it's prequel." And I was like, "All right, cool, whatever." I just want to make sure I'm saying it right because, I'm not a nameologist and I'm not very good. I'm pretty sure that's a made up word I just made up. So fuck you. But yes. So
I'm not the grammar police, man. Yeah, don't worry.
So Prequel, what I notice is they pull from a lot of different elements. So let's get talking into just about Ghost themselves. So if anybody doesn't know who Ghost is and you're trying to figure out who the fuck is Ghost, Ghost is a band that was actually formerly known as Ghost BC, which I'm taking a guess before Christ. I have no clue. They are a Swedish rock band. They formed in 2016, releasing their first 3-track demo called Elizabeth in 2010, and followed up by their first full-length album. I'm going to say this wrong. Opus Epiphany Moralness, which I'm pretty sure I butchered the fuck out of that. Yes, and their song Ritual, which was off this record, is considered Kurg's 50 most evilest songs ever.
Okay.
Yes, and on top of that as well, they are Grammy nominated and Grammy winners. In 2015, for their second album, Melora, they won metal/rock album of the year, and in 2016 they won best metal performance for their song Circa. I'm not sure if I said that, off of their Prequel album.
I didn't know any of that. I would have never thought they'd be a Grammy type band.
Yes, man. So let's dig a little deep into this right here. Before we start kind of going into the music, I'd really like to talk about the history because I learned some interesting things when I started to investigate them a little bit. So, the vocalist goes by many different names, many different transformations, okay? Not only that, he's been in several different style bands. He's in a black metal band called Repugnant, which he's the guitar player and vocalist. He's also in a glam metal band called Crash Diet as well, too. So, when you were talking about different influences, especially on the Prequel album, that's where that comes from. He's got a black metal background as well as a glam metal background. And you can definitely hear that in that record.
Yes, for sure.
Like I said, he goes, especially in Ghost, he goes by many incarnations. Papa Euphrates, the first, the second, the third, the fourth, and Nile. And then Cardinal Copa are all the stage names. Now, this is something we can talk about right off the rip, man. Before we get into the music, what I really want to talk about is their presence. It's very, I don't know if you've ever watched any videos of them, Brandon. It's almost like you're going to the most satanic Sunday mass you've ever been to. The stage has like stained glass mirrors. It has very crazy, like colors, very, gothic looking, if you will. And as well as the band itself, wear kind of like almost faceless, devilish type horned looking masks that look really metallic. Think Slaughter to Prevail with less detail.
Okay.
Yeah, you've seen what Alex wears from Slaughter to Prevail.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Very similar mask, not as evil looking, but still kind of menacing looking. So Tobias Ferguson, or Tobias, or if I'm saying that right, Tobias Forge is his name, real name, legit name. And the only reason why we know that is because of a 2017 lawsuit against him and former bandmates due to royalty disputes, which is something else I discovered as well, too. Mind you, he'd been going on with this since 2010, so it took 7 years before we actually found out what this dude's real name was. And Mr. Forge's characters that he plays, Papa Euphrates is obviously the anti-pope, if you will. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He wears the big pope hat. He wears the makeup. And then the Cardinal Copa, to be honest with you, it just looks like he's wearing someone else's face on his face. It's very disturbing. It's quite like the most disturbing thing you've ever seen. It looks very loose. It doesn't look like it fits. Also, when he sings, obviously the mouth doesn't move because it's like a mask. So think Corey Taylor's mask from not the album recently, but the album before, where he could pull off the top of it off or something like that. Looked very human fleshy like. And I'm wondering, I'm not gonna lie, I'm wondering if he saw that and was just like, yo, I can tap into something like that as well too. So yes. So imagery, atmosphere, they created. They're very, very fucking good at it. They look scary as shit. The other thing too is the clothes. They're very how do you say it? They almost look like suits. Like they're wearing like proper suits. Tailor fitted clothes, almost like dress shoes. Very much like you would see someone who's dressed for church. There you go, boom. You know what I'm saying? That's what they look like. They look like they're.
All right, so they got that like church vibe going on.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, well, because the whole thing, and we'll get there. The whole thing is dark, gothic, Satan, straight up. And in talking about that, we're going to transition into talking about the lyrics, because this was something else I found out that was actually very, very, very interesting. Now, Forge states that when he was an adolescent, he unquestionably threw his hands into the hands of Satan. He cited his strict stepmother and the alienation he felt from her home, and the even stricter religious teachers, I'm assuming, in Sweden, they probably, teach a little differently, that made him, in his words, quote, run headfirst into the devil, into the arms of the devil, is what he says. Okay.
Okay.
And it is extremely reflective in their lyrics, especially like songs, Square Hammer, where it basically is saying, are you on the level? Which basically means, are you understanding? Are you open-minded? And, it's basically he's exclaiming, to give yourself to the devil, Satan, so on and so forth.
All right, hold up. Are we talking about the guy from Ghost, or are we talking about Devin?
God, oh man. To be honest with you, anyways. Hey man, we love Devin. Devin, we love you, brother. We love you. We appreciate you, man. But this we're talking about Tobias Forge from Ghost, and this is like I said, this is research that I've found. So I'm trying to give you kind of an idea of where his mindset is and why these lyrics come off so dark. And which is another thing too, is if you really pay attention to some of these lyrics, and if you were to read the lyrics, look at the album covers, you would swear you're about to listen to the most heaviest fucking thing you've ever heard. But they have introduced, in my mind, what I think is song structure as well as melody and hook to something that kind of, like, if you really don't pay attention to the lyrics, kind of passive aggressively is catchy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's weird how catchy it is. And then you read the lyrics and you're just like, wow, this is really dark shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'll have to read the lyrics, but I'll tell you, when I listen to, it's the last song on that Prequel album.
You got it.
It was weird. Like, I had the headphones on, I was listening to it, and like, if you took the vocals out,
okay,
like, I felt like, what was that thing from the Never-Ending Story? That big white monster thing.
Falcor.
I felt like I was riding Falcor, like, through the mountain, and like just fog everywhere, and like trees were silent, like everything was silent, and I was just like riding Falcor through a forest.
That is funny.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. In listening to, like I said, like some of what they do, man, like I said, they make it really, really catchy. And also, what's strangely enough, which is crazy, is some people, so I guess apparently they recorded what is this right here? This would be their second album, their 2003 album, Infestama, which I'm hoping that's how I said that right. They were looking for choir singers to actually sing their lyrics, but they recorded it in Nashville, and I don't know if you know anything about Nashville. That's pretty south, man, and I'm telling you one thing they don't do. They don't mess around when it comes to the devil. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So they were forced to actually record some of those parts in Hollywood because, I mean, talk about one of the soulless fucking places in the world.
Yeah.
Also, the other crazy thing too is, and here's some more facts. They've also had problems getting manufacturers in the United States to actually press their albums because some of their artwork had featured some nudity, which also released in some kind of interesting, they had to do some interesting different things and stuff like that. But yeah, no, they've had some really big controversy because of the imagery, because of how they look, because of what they talk about.
That's pretty cool because, like, Behemoth is the same way.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, man, I don't know, man. Once again, it's one of those things where, like, I can kind of get why people latch on to certain things, but then also at the same time, I'm wondering why those people don't have a more expanded taste onto other things as well, too. It's almost like this is that only band that people fade onto, because I feel like this is some of what they do is some of what Pink Floyd did, some of what Led Zeppelin did, some of what even Black Sabbath, if you pay attention to, like I was trying to get you to listen to Mummy's Dust, and if you listen to Mummy's Dust, it literally, the opening riff just reminds me of a Metallica song and a Black Sabbath song. Just fucking really just it cranks, man. And don't get me wrong, the music does definitely crank, and it has those moments where it's like really rock and roll or really metal as well too, because that's the other thing too. I think these guys ride that border of rock and metal, because some songs can come out rock, some songs can come out metal. And even on the latest album, Prequel, there's a couple of songs that even almost sounded glam metal. The song Rats sounds really glam metal. You hear that chorus, Rats!
Yeah. There was another song, I even heard like wind instruments in it, and I was like, wow, this has got like a Zeppelin feel to it.
Yes, man, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I feel like these guys came out in the wrong era. You know what I'm saying? But they
for sure.
Yeah, but they're still riding success, man. These guys are extremely popular. These guys are really, really doing things, man. They've got what do we got here? We've got 4 album releases, and a 5th if you include their live album. You've got 3 EPs, and this is all starting from 2010. So in literally 10 years, basically, they've released a massive amount of material, and I think that's what kind of keeps people engaged, as well as you're talking about Tobias Forge being an interesting, charismatic character. The way he presents himself, like I said, like presents himself like you're going to church, like you're going to worship at the the local satanic church down the road. You know what I'm saying? And then like the other thing too is, man, you got to give it to the Grammys, man. The Grammys kind of solidifies them as legitimate artist, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But then again, the Grammys have just been given the business to metal for many, many years.
Yes, absolutely.
But no, I okay, so let's talk about why we think people like them. And I personally think they like them because it's a more old school, digestible thing. It looks evil, but doesn't sound quite evil, even though the lyrics are very dark.
Right. I could picture all age groups listening to Ghost. Like, your old school, like, biker people, like, I don't know. I can picture just all different age groups.
Yeah.
People who, like, appreciate all the different genres.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love the artwork.
Mm-hmm.
They got a cool sound. I would definitely go see them in concert.
Yeah. I
would
definitely
definitely see them live.
I think that's definitely an experience that you have to, because I remember when we were talking on the last show when you were on the show, where it was you, me, Alex, and Alfredo. We were talking about 1349 and kind of like not knowing any of their material, but going to see them live, it was an experience. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I imagine seeing Ghost and how they present themselves, and like I said, I watched a few YouTube videos. It's very dramatic, very over the top, very like Tobias is very charismatic. He's very much a showman. There you go. Very much a showman. So I think it would be definitely interesting. I also think this is one of those bands that when you're talking to someone, like you said, like someone who's older, who's like, yeah, man, metal isn't what it used to be. You could show them this band and be like, well, look, I mean, this is kind of old schoolish. You know what I'm saying? This might be right up your alley. I think this is something new for an older crowd as well, too. But I can also see how some of these younger people who don't find themselves in a metalcore or deathcore, but like the dark imagery, but want something catchy to listen to. You know what I'm saying? And
I think that's why Ghost is successful, because they have the imagery, right? Mm-hmm. It looks metal as shit, like all this, right? All these young kids who are looking into metal or who are been in metal, they look at this imagery and they're like, oh, yo, I got to check these guys out.
Yeah.
Then they check them out. They may not like them, but Ghost is still getting exposure. But then you get the older crowd who grew up with Zeppelin, Metallica, Iron Maiden, all that, and they're like, wow, these guys are great.
Oh, yeah. I definitely think this is a band I could show my dad and be like, oh, man, this is really good. This is some real old school stuff. And then I would tell him it came out recently, and he'd probably look at me like, no shit,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, definitely think that's something that people latch onto. Like once again, I'm going back to my wife. Tasha said she wants to like this band. She really wants to like this band. She loves the imagery. She loves the presentation. But now we got to talk about why people may not like them. And one of the things I think Tasha stated was it doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit together. For her, there's a disconnect. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I can see why people don't like them, because they are stealing imagery that you would see on a death metal album and making it really dark and then when you hear the band, there's a complete disconnect from the imagery to the music,
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, it is one of those don't judge a book by its cover kind of deal. Because definitely, I'm sure if I showed this to someone like my mom would probably be like, I don't know if I want to listen to something like this. And then I think if she heard it, she'd be like, oh, okay, cool. This is kind of, whereas someone like my wife hears it and it's just like, I really want to like it because it looks so cool, but it's bad. I don't like it. You know what I'm saying? And you can't, certain people, they can't latch onto that. There's a disconnect there. It's just like, you look so cool, or, something that looks, us being fat guys, we love food. So it's like looking at something that looks good, smells good, but does not taste good. You know what I'm saying? Tastes bad. And I think sometimes that's some of what that is. Also, I do feel like some people in the metal scene don't like this band because they have stolen so much imagery from black metal. It's almost like a poser thing. You know what I'm saying? Like where some people believe in like an elitist opinion of, oh, well, because you look this way, you should sound this way. And here these guys, especially like his earlier incarnations of wearing the upside down cross on the Pope hat, and he's wearing, black and white paint on his face. A lot of people are like, clearly he's stealing from black metal with corpse paint and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I can understand where those people are feeling disrespected in the sense that here's this guy who's clearly stealing our imagery, but sounds like a fucking bitch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And that's kind of, that for some people is something that can define a line for certain people,
Absolutely.
Where they feel like, no, this is just, no, you're not going to fucking pull the wool over my eyes with this bullshit. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, once again, it goes back to that, to each its own. You enjoy what you enjoy, and like you said before, you may not go seek this out, but if it comes on, hey, you'll vibe, you'll listen to it, you'll see what you can get from it, learn from it. And like I said, they seem, especially with their most recent album, they seem to be kind of trying a bunch of different things. And like I said before with Tobias, he obviously has a multitude of musical backgrounds that he really, really enjoys. And the devil. And the devil, the Dark Lord. So now I want to get your perspective, production wise and music wise. What are your thoughts about them?
Production is great. Mm-hmm. I really think the only thing that turns me off is the vocals. I'm a very picky person when it comes to vocals. So like,
yes,
I'm not knocking these bands, but bands like Periphery, right?
Okay.
I think they are wicked talented, but I'd rather listen to their instrumental album than I would with the vocals on it.
Oh man, and Spencer Sotelo though is a beast. I love Spencer Sotelo, but I can get it. I can get it.
Yes, I'm not knocking him. I think he is a great vocalist. Mm-hmm. I'm not in it for the vocals. That comes second for me. Mm-hmm. I got to analyze like the music. I got to analyze structure and stuff. But yeah, I mean, Ghost they knock it out of the park.
Yeah.
They're ridiculously talented, mm-hmm. And but I want, like, if I could find an instrumental album of theirs and just vibe with that for like a week, then go back to the vocals, then I can see, like, I could put it in my brain, like, oh wow, okay, so this really does go together, like the vibe of the song, and then the vocals and like what he's saying and the lyrics, like it's like a puzzle piece. I got to start with the music first and then go on and so forth. But no, I think they knock it out of the park, production wise and musicality wise.
Yeah, I think also with the vocals, I really think he's trying to go more for, and I'm not saying he sounds like him, but I think he's going for like an Ozzy Osbourne feel, where Ozzy's voice is very distinct and unique. And I very much think that Tobias Forge's voice is very distinct. It doesn't sound like anybody else, but also at the same time, I don't think anybody else is really doing this style of music. There may be some bands that on a smaller scale are doing this, but when we're talking about successful bands, Ghost stands above everyone else right now who may or may not be doing this style. I have no clue. But like you said, I'm definitely very picky about vocals. I didn't find these vocals for me. The first record, Opus, I'm just going to call it Opus because I'm not going to try to attempt to say the second word. The vocals were very hard to get over. They were very hard to listen to. Also, you can kind of tell like this was their first time. The production wasn't really too great.
Yeah.
But that second album, Infestamena, which came out in 2013, definitely picks up. It definitely is aggressive, actually, with the vocals. Much more aggressive. Then the follow-up, Malor, in 2015, kind of picks up on that, but gets catchier. You know, it's almost like very sinister, very dark. The whole album presents itself as this dark work that you're getting, but still like in that catchiness. Their deluxe album of Malor has the song Square Hammer, which is very fucking catchy. It's super, super catchy, which is something they actually do pretty well. And then Prequel, the vocals ranged from a lot of different things. I almost think some of his inspiration for some of the vocals might even be King Diamond, to be honest with you.
I was going to say that too.
Very much.
Very King Diamond, Merciful Fate type.
Yes. You can definitely get that sense from what they do. And once again, like I said, it goes back to what inspires him. And a lot of people don't realize, and why I'm focusing more on Tobias, through that 2017 lawsuit, we actually kind of found out Ghost is actually just Tobias. And basically kind of like on a hired musician point, where... And
that I did not know.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking is he probably collaborates with these people, or collaborates with a producer and so on and so forth, or, you know, maybe he does it himself or whatever the case is, but to be honest with you, it's just kind of him. And he also, like I said, he has a number of other projects. The other thing too I forgot to say was he's also in a pop rock band too. So like this dude has like so many things. I'm unsure if his name's really Brandon Cooper with the multiple projects.
Okay, I see what you did there.
Yeah. See, it came back around, bitch. Yeah, with the multiple projects, man. But no, I mean, like I said, it just definitely seems like multiple influences from multiple genres. Different kind of things. Once again, you know, this series is not really about knocking them. You know, I can understand why people are so interested and fascinated, the aesthetic, the look. But then I can also be understanding of why people could be turned away. The sound, the vocals, the music. Sometimes some people don't like old school music for the simple fact is they feel like new school music is progressing forward more and more every day. You know, me and you are always finding new bands that we like. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
And some of them have those particular features, but you know, I think me and you usually tend to look into a more progressive, different sound, a band that's adding on to something that's already existing and maybe changing it in some way. You know.
For sure.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. I think these guys are cool, and like you said, I think this would be worth going to see them live. You know, just to see the show. There you go. But if that ever happens again, exactly. If that ever happens again, but as it pertains to the music, you know, it can be difficult in some spots. But like I said, I feel very much like you. If it's on, I'm not mad at it. I'm listening to it. I'm probably going to enjoy it. I'm like, might want to figure out what song that is, you know, in case it's something I like. You know, I did come away like getting a new song that I really like. Like I said, the Mummy Dust song kind of riffs. It's kind of cool. I like it. And then Square Hammer was already something that I had enjoyed. I'd seen the music video a couple times and I thought it was pretty cool. But yeah, man. So tell us what you think about Ghost. Tell us how you feel about Ghost. I'm sure we know a few people who probably are on either side. And like I said, man, this isn't about like trying to knock a band. This is about kind of analyzing why or why not, you know, who knows, man. And you know, I don't know, man, that's it. So, you know, once again, thank you, Brandon, for joining me. I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
All right, guys. And until next time, later.